Hello, it's Dr. Andre Creer again, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a topic close to my heart, namely the topic of nutritional excess. Nutritional excess is a plague of the modern world, aggravated by the marketing strategies of the pharmaceutical and various other corporations and companies and industries trying to do what they need to do, namely to make some money. Now, under various guises and disguises, these companies market products which is intended, in the bottom line, to get us to part with our hard-earned money in exchange with things that we generally do not need, and that can even harm us. The strategy comprises of the following 4 points. In the first point, convince us that we are deficient in something. Once we're convinced that we really are deficient in something, then they need to convince us they can supply that something to us. And that whatever they supply to us is totally harmless, so whatever good comes from it comes with no harm. And the fourth point in the whole strategy is to take some of our money in exchange for those things that are sold to us, to do what is promised. Now let's look at the strategy in a little bit more detail. Start with the fallacy of deficiency. Please just look around you. Where does this marketing really take place? Does it take place in the famine-stricken, malnourished societies of the third world? No. There's no marketing there. Why? There's no money there. Marketing takes place in the most affluent societies. It makes sense because that is where the money is, and it is the money that marketing is after. Now, these affluent societies, incidentally, is where people are most overnourished. And look at the American, European, or other wealthy nations. People have become a lot bigger in the last few decades. And I promise you, you cannot grow unless you have the nutrients to grow with. Therefore, the marketing challenge is to convince us that we are deficient in something, even though the opposite is apparently true. But of course, the science of marketing is seldom bothered by facts. The only fact that they are interested in is that your money belongs in their bank accounts. And if the facts doesn't suit the product, then they simply invent new facts. Such as the notion that today's crops are deficient in nutrients. They say, today's crops just have no more nutritional value, in order for you to buy their products. Products, incidentally, usually made out of those very same crops. Not necessarily the part that's sold to you in the supermarket, but the part that's often filtered off in a factory. These products, the agricultural products that should form our prime nutrition, is often disassembled in factories. And as it's disassembled, we eventually therefore get incomplete nutrition, indeed. Often the waste products goes into the food, and the rest is often fed to cattle or feedlots, making the animals grow a bit faster. But whatever way, when food gets into a factory and it gets disassembled, or if food products that disassembled elsewhere gets into a factory, that waste product can get analyzed, and that analysis can sound very convincing. It can sound very impressive because there's a lot of different stuff in the waste product. Waste product can be put into a container with all those nutrients analysis put on the cover of the container, and we are told, just look at all the different things in this wonderful supplement of ours. And it's really impressively sounding substances, names, referring to things that would actually have been in our natural diet, and actually in most cases is in our natural diet in more than abundance. But in our real food, there's things that's not in these supplements. In our real foods, there are things that we call cofactors. In several studies of supplements, it has been found that whereas the whole food has benefits, the disassembled food and or the supplement not. One of the famous studies in this sense, in this instance, is the beta-carotene study that has found that beta-carotene prevents cancer if it's in the diet, but when it is in a supplement, it actually increases the levels of cancers. So within foods, there's cofactors. Once it's taken out of the food and put into a supplement, it is exposed to time, preservation, heating, cooling, milling, grinding, mixing, coloring, flavoring, preserving, storing. These so-called nutrients in their containers and new forms are often stored for long periods of time, and they indeed do change. They indeed do lose nutrients, particularly some of the more active nutrients. So, food without cofactors or nutrients without their cofactors are relatively useless. And I believe that things sold to us as supplements, as isolated vitamins and other nutrients, often do not contain the cofactors that really makes them work. Therefore, our body, which consists of cells, needs cells as nutrition. Please look at whatever you eat and ask yourself, does this still contain cells? If something has gone through a factory, very often the cell is disassembled into its constituent parts. Some parts go this way, some parts go that way. Some goes into animal feed, some goes into human feed, and some goes into capsules and tablets to make these so-called supplements. You can do no better than eat the whole food. The whole food is typically supplied at a greengrocer. Some supermarkets have reasonable volumes, but please bear in mind that you need to eat the cell, the whole cell, nothing but the cell, and you only find that in whole foods. Therefore, the best health store, the best supplement store, is the good old-fashioned greengrocer. I'm selling you food that's whole, that has not been disassembled, that doesn't have any additives, and hadn't had their best nutrients taken away.